All right, everybody, it's the Millennial Prepster here, and I just wanted to, just start off with I did a live debate with the Conscientious Omnivore and Thunder Logan Fitness something or another. Great channels, really good to see, how people debate, especially on veganism. And the reason why I decided to do the debate is because every time I saw the debates going on, there was always this for me, it was always you see these the arguments were just very poor, not very strong arguments. The arguments are always, well, we should all do grass-fed, and they say, well, you can't do grass-fed, it's impossible, it's not sustainable, this, that, and the other, and then my existence today proves that you can have meat sustainably, right? And so that's pretty much, it's pretty much true. I started off that debate, and like I said, I'm just going to recap my points that I was able to make. Obviously, there's more, and we'll probably do subsequent videos, but the whole point of what I was trying to do is just recap my points and tell you what I thought was addressed and what I thought wasn't addressed, and just kind of, take that 3 hours and then wash it down to something to where you can just see my points and kind of what their counterpoints are. And the biggest thing is this thing called ethics, right? That's kind of the biggest thing is, do you have the right to kill something that is sentient? And so I'm going to just briefly jump on that right quick and just say that I do, and the people that I was debating with, they do believe that there is a difference between human life and animal life, right? As far as they're not the same, they're not equatable. But they'll say that and then instantly say that the ethics doesn't come from your impact, the negative impact that you have on the environment. That doesn't make you more ethical. And then they bring up a slave owner that enslaves people and eats them. Well, I am not enslaving people and eating them. I am breeding rabbits, free-grazed rabbits to eat nothing but grass, right? I can do, in my yard alone, I can create 400 pounds of fresh rabbit meat, high-quality rabbit meat, every year. And I can do that using only grass, no antibiotics, no chemicals, no drugs. And I can do it using less water than it takes to make 1 gallon of almond milk for a whole year. That's huge. So if you're talking about environmental impact, and you're talking about me versus your average vegan, your average consumer vegan that feels like they have moral high ground because they don't kill animals, but they poison the environment, which we'll get to here in just a second, I find that to be a huge misnomer. And it got brought up that, well, slavery, right, and this and that and the other. And at the end of the day, the reason why, to me, that argument isn't a sound argument is because if I ask you, if you saw somebody kill somebody else, would you report it? Would you physically do something about it? If you had the ability to stop somebody from killing another human being, would you do something about it? Most vegans will say yes. All the vegans I've met have said yes. If I were to ask you, if you saw somebody raping another person, would you stop that person from being raped? Every vegan I've talked to has said yes, they would try to stop that person from being raped. I say the same thing about slavery. If you saw that your neighbor was enslaving people, or if you knew a house where people were being enslaved, would you do something about it? Given the opportunity, if you knew that was happening, would you physically do something about it? Everyone I've talked to says yes. But when you change that around and you say, okay, well, if this is a person that is growing rabbits to eat, would you act in the same capacity? Absolutely not. They're not going to use physical force against me. They're not going to use physical force against a hunter. They'll say a hunter is a murderous is murdering, and that's just as bad as him killing a human being. But they would do something with this human being. But they're not going to take any steps to physically stop somebody. They'll just say it's morally bad and it's not good, but they won't do anything. So under that same logic, these are the same people that would let Auschwitz happen. These are the same people that will let mass genocide happen. Because according to them, it's happening all around, right? It's happening all around them. That's where that argument is super shaky. If you're not willing to if you're going to say that it's just as bad or it's horrible, ethically wrong, but you're not going to stop it, you're not going to intervene, and you truly feel that way, well, you're the same people that allow the Holocaust to happen. That's just factually true, And then you can't use the argument that, well, it's against the law or this or that. And well, if I know something's right, if I feel deeply about something, I'm going to act. If somebody's murdering somebody or raping somebody, I don't care if there's a law that says you can rape. I'm going to do something about it because that's wrong. Morally wrong. But these same people won't do the same thing for an animal. They'll just talk about it and be keyboard warriors. So that's one thing that I wish I could have gotten across a little better than I did, but you know, it's neither here nor there. It's something that if I ever do a debate again, which I hope to have conversations, is something that I want to definitely press. The next thing I want to talk about, you know, is the fact that I brought up that vegans always want to talk about carcinogens, which I think is great. Let's talk about carcinogens, right? Meat is a carcinogen that has the probability of probably give somebody is a cause for cancer, right? And then I tell them, well, if you're a vegan, you're eating plants that are grown from agriculture, and the way agriculture does things is, let's take it step-by-step process. You get into so you're a vegan, you leave your oil power home, you get into oil power car, you take that oil power car to the oil power grocery store, you then buy plant-based products, plant-based foods that are grown in a level 1 carcinogen, fertilizer, chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, you name your cocktail. So you are growing, you're buying food that was grown in a carcinogen, packaged in oil, transported in oil from all over the world to an oil power grocery store where you just went to, and that's somehow morally better or better for the environment than what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm able to produce over 400 pounds of fresh, organic, grass-fed, no hormones, no chemicals, food with less water than it takes to make 1 gallon of almond milk. 1 gallon of almond milk that a vegan drinks has more of a detrimental impact on the environment than the amount of food I can produce in 1 year. But then I'm told that that's, you know, being good to the environment is an ethical argument you can make because of slavery that I don't do, because of murder that I don't do. You know, it's a huge misnomer. You know, and it's I think those arguments are factually weak. At best, they're factually weak, because they're just plain out wrong. You know, and then, you know, I do have a lot of respect for both of them. I really do. Just the fact they were able to host me, I think is awesome, and I appreciate them. I do, you know, especially for, because most of the conversation I have was with the conscientious omnivore, and I do believe deep down inside that he just wants to do the best, and he does, you know, like we call bleeding heart. He definitely has a bleeding heart. Definitely, you know, just seems like a great guy. I'd love to have a beer with sometime. Great dude, right? Can't say anything bad about him. But he even said that his number 1 rule is treat others the way you want to be treated. And then I asked him if he has a pet. He said, yeah, but I got that pet pretty much before I came to Jesus, right? Before I became a vegan. And, you know, if I'm going to use that argument, I'm going to say, well, so you have these morals, but you're bending them to justify what you're doing. You're using that to justify. I could totally do that. I didn't. I'm not going to. And I even told him, well, you know, the animal depends on you. You can't just, if you're going to release that animal in the wild, it's not going to have as good a quality of life. He said he wasn't going to get any more animals, you know. And then so you start talking about consent. Does that animal have consent? No. But does that animal love him? I'm sure that animal loves him. That animal wants to be there, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, they can't consent, right? So you even have vegans bending their rules, because if they really believe that, then they wouldn't have any other pets. And we all have an environmental impact. My point is, as a meat eater, I have a less of an impact than most vegans out there, but somehow they're more ethical than me. You know, that takes some mental gymnastics in my point. Like I said, if you honestly, truly, factually, just on the ethics portion one more time, if you truly, actually believe that a hunter is just as bad as a murderer, and you're not doing anything about it, you're not even trying to do anything about it, you're the same people that allow Auschwitz to happen. You're the same people that allow the Holocaust to happen. You're the same people that allow genocide to happen. You're the same people that allow all these bad things to happen in society directly in front of you, because you will say it's bad, but you won't do anything about it. I mean, factually, if we're being factual, that's exactly what you're doing. But we all know, not all, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some vegans out there that would use force against people. We've seen it, but there's so far few in between that it's not even worth bringing up, because most vegans, like I said, they'll say it's wrong, they'll say it's immoral, and they may even believe it's immoral, but they're not willing to put any foot forward. But they would if it was a person, but they're not for animal, because they do see it. There's a quality of life difference there. And even Logan said that, you know, if you're in the wild and you needed to survive, that eating animals would be justified to survive. And it's like, okay, it's either right or it's wrong, right? It's either morally right or it's morally wrong. And if you're saying it's morally wrong, you can justify it because you're starving, or it's because you need it to survive. Well, hey, I do need these rabbits to survive, because I need to ensure that I have a food source for me and my family, that I don't have to go out and depend on society to give it to me, because at the end of the day, feeding my family is my responsibility. So that was one thing that I wish we could have gotten a little bit clearer on. The fact that any plant agriculture that's not organic is using a level 1 carcinogen to grow the food, right? So knowing that that is the case, I wish we would have talked about it more. I feel like that it was what he wanted, which I think it's kind of interesting. He wanted to talk about health, and then it got stopped right quick. Well, didn't really pursue as much, because I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most healthiest guy out there, but I eat pretty clean and my cholesterol levels are great, And so you can't, like I said, you can't use these typical big animal agriculture arguments against me, because I totally agree. Let's get rid of it. But I think it's interesting that he wants to talk about health and the health benefits of vegetables. But every time I kept saying, well, we can talk about health, but let's talk about what you eat. Let's talk about the chemicals that, are you okay with the fact that those chemicals are used to produce the food that you eat? They don't want to talk about it. And then I talk about input, like your meat quality is only as good as what you input into it. Same thing with your vegetable quality, it's only as good as you input into it. And he didn't even address it. He acted like I didn't even say it. So if you want to talk about food, let's just talk about your plants versus my plants. Let's just talk about the vegan's plants versus somebody that eats only organic, because they grow it and they only go for organic-based source foods. The oranges that we eat today in big agriculture are only 1/8 the quality of what our great grandparents ate. You can lose 90% of the quality of spinach because it was after 3 days of being harvested. Well, it takes that long to get it from the source to where you're eating it. So if you're really talking about health, man, and you really want to be serious, and you're a vegan, and you really want to be serious about that, if you're buying your food from the grocery store and it's not organic, don't even talk to me about health, man, because you're eating not very healthy food. You're eating food that was grown in level 1 carcinogen. So like I said, it takes a lot of, if you're going to say you have virtue because you buy vegan, you're just virtue signaling, and you don't really have, you're just a consumer. You think that by consuming, right, by being part of a consumer culture, you're somehow better, and it blows my mind. It's ridiculous, and that's why a lot of people, I feel, can't take it seriously. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell. And we talked about some other things, but at the end of the day, those were really the two things that I really wanted to touch base. Those were my arguments, man. That I'm a meat eater and I have a way less impact, and I have a way less impact on society and the environment than vegans do. Even though I kill animals to eat, I kill less animals, have less environmental impact than those that get their food from big box grocery stores that buy food, that buy almond milk. Like I said, that's huge. You can't just overlook the fact that I can produce 1 year's worth of meat with less environmental impact than 1 gallon of almond milk. You can't just glaze over it, which they did, because it's not something you want to talk about. And people want to just be controlled in this environment where they're only around like-minded people, and that's the biggest thing. Like I said, I even told them this. I don't care if vegans think I'm a horrible person because of the lifestyle I choose to live. I don't care about any of that. If I could do anything and say, hey, not all meat eaters are the same, and you should do more, whether you like me or not, the fact that you should do more, you should try to garden. You should try to do aquaponics. You should try to get a little mason jar filled with dirt and put some basil in it and grow something. Do something. Have some kind of positive impact. And at the end of the day, that's my message to everybody. Like I said, I don't care, what people's thoughts or opinions are. I like to have more of these conversations, but I think it's important for us to be factually honest. I think it's important for us to have consistency. And I'm willing to talk and debate with anybody that wants to talk and debate. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but at the end of the day, ethics is ethics. And if you really truly believe with all your heart that a hunter is just as bad as a murderer, but you're not going to do anything about it, and you allow that to happen in your society, you're the same people that allow the Holocaust and genocide and all these other things to happen, because these things that you claim are just as bad are happening in front of you, and you're not doing anything about it. But like I said, you're just being, disingenuous. So that's what I have for you guys. Like I said, the debate was about 3 hours long. This is just about 15 minutes, so hopefully you get something out of it. If you have any questions, likes, comments, suggestions, leave them down below. That was kind of the debate in a nutshell. I have a lot of respect for those guys. Hope to do it again. And as always, guys, long live the Republic.